guys, how's it going? I'm Chris Lamar, and this is the first episode of BDC Boost. I was thinking because it's the first episode that we should just start at the beginning, and that it was appropriate for us to talk about selling the appointment rather than selling the car. And what I mean by that is a lot of the time we can get caught up with the customer's questions, talking about price, that sort of thing, and then you really get into selling the car rather than selling the appointment. And in reality, a BDC agent's job is to get that appointment because that's what you're getting paid on. So you don't want to get caught up, answering all these questions and losing control of the conversation. And then the next thing you know, the person hung up because they got all the information that they needed from you, right? So you're probably wondering, well, how can I do this, how can I do this and make it work every time? And really, there's no foolproof way that's going to make this work all the time for you because customers are different, circumstances are different, and not everybody is quite as cooperative as we would like. But you can definitely follow some tips and techniques that will move you further along in the conversation and make it easier for you to set your appointment. So, you're wondering how. So, you want to remember that you control the conversation and you need to keep control of the conversation from the beginning all the way until the end, until you're giving them that time and confirming their appointment. And the best way to do this is to make sure that you're the one that's asking all the questions. You don't want to get bogged down in answering all of the questions. And, especially you never want to ask, do you have any questions? Because they do have questions. And this is going to lead you down a road that you don't want to go down. So one of the best ways, in my opinion, to control the conversation and to keep it going in the right direction is to have a script. And you don't necessarily have to follow the script, word for word. It could even be a guideline, or it could even be, a bulleted list of the points that you want to hit while you're going through this conversation, because it's going to guide you through the conversation to the end, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get that appointment. So you also want to make sure that you're the one that's asking all the questions. What I mean by that is customers have questions. So if they ask you a question, then be sure to answer it, of course, unless it's about price, which we'll go into in another episode. You want to try to avoid that as much as you can. But say they're like, is this car available? Yes, it's available. And then you want to follow up with a question. You always want to follow up with a question. So you might want to have a list of go-to questions that you ask that are going to fit in with your script, that will keep you going through the conversation. And sometimes you want to make sure that you have some questions and some information that's going to help you with objections, because they're going to have objections. You're going to be dealing with objections all the time. So the appointment, as far as selling it, you want to make sure that you're trying to sell this appointment within the first 30 seconds. And what I mean by that is, say the person calls and they're like, is this car available? Yes, this car is available, and I have an appointment at 2:15 or 3:45 today. Which one works best for you? And, you want to throw that out there right away. And that way you can avoid all of these questions that they're going to bombard you with, and you can avoid them getting too much information from you on the phone and then hanging up and not having to make an appointment and just showing up. Because not all dealerships are going to pay you off of a customer that you were working with that just walked into the dealership. And it's even worse that if you answered all their questions, you probably didn't get all their information, so you wouldn't know if they walked in anyway. So, you want to make sure that you're asking for the appointment within the 15-30 second range. But again, that's not something that you can always do, because sometimes they might ask you a different question, and, something about price, something about, features, that sort of thing. In that case, you want to answer that question by saying, that's an excellent question. I'm not a sales specialist, but I can get you set up with one. I have an appointment at 12:15 today or at 12:45, which one works best for you. And you always want to give a couple of options. And the reason that you set for like 12:15 rather than 12:30 or 12:45 rather than 1 o'clock is because for some reason the psychology of that, it creates urgency with the customer, and it makes them feel like they have to make one of those appointments because they think that the dealership is busy. And one, nobody wants to sit in a busy dealership and wait. And two, they want to get in there and make sure that they get that car, especially if it's a used car. So, um, so basically, sorry, this is my first video. So sorry if I'm a little nervous, but I'll get better. I'll get better at it. But, you want to make sure that if within the first 15 to 30 seconds, if that appointment is not confirmed, if they're not like, well, I can come in at 12:15, then you want to get through this conversation the best that you can, keep control, and make sure that you're asking again for that appointment. And if you have to ask 2 or 3 times, bring them back to, I have an appointment at 12:15 or 12:45, or, something. Just keep control of that conversation and keep asking for that appointment because, like I said earlier, that's what we get paid on. So, these are just a couple best practices to get you going and to, help you to set that appointment. There's going to be more to come, so stay tuned.